Thank you for joining us today. I just want to share with you, we're excited about bargaining with you all and working with the teachers to improve our working relationship. And so we welcome you, Sharia, to this process. Last year you came in at the end, and we were fortunate enough to work with Emily. And so we started off with Michael, and so now we're excited to have you with us. What we'd like to do is kind of set the tone. This is more of a planning and kind of to get to know. There's some new faces I don't recognize on the LCTA side. I'm glad about that. That's a lot of what I do enjoy doing with meeting teachers. And I'd like to introduce you some new faces that are sitting on our side that were not here last year. You may recognize some of them, but I don't know if everybody knows everyone. And then kind of setting the stage and the tone for this bargaining session and going from there. So we offer that to you all first.
Okay, well, I'll let the team start by introducing themselves. We'll start.
Well, Brian McLean, I teach at Lincoln High School.
I'm Dan Dernberger, I teach at Rock Middle School. I'm Nancy LCTA.
Shari Moore from Springwood Elementary School.
Jerry Kilpatrick, I teach at Leslie.
Kim Styler teaching at ACE. Leslie Clark at Griffin.
And I'm Sharia Griffin, for those of you that don't know me yet. I'm sure we'll be working closely together at some point or another. I served as the Executive Director for Bay, Walton, and Gulf counties. And I've worked with Mr. Deason in several of those counties as well, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
All right, on our side, we'll start at the far, to my far left at the end.
Hi, I'm Angie Albrecht. I'm the HR supervisor for instruction. I'm Mary Nicholson. I'm the director of human resources. Good to see you.
Shane Seifert, I'm the Director for Professional Learning.
Good morning, Sue Rochelle, Principal at Swift Creek.
Kim Banks, I'm the Chief Financial Officer. Mary McLaughlin, Budget Director.
Leonard Dixon, Traveler of the State Board.
Yeah.
Chief Negotiator, and happy to be here.
I'm Sue Crawl. I'm the director of elementary schools.
Dimitri Clemens, principal at COB Elementary.
Hi, I'm Jillian Gregory, Assistant Superintendent, Academic Services.
And then Peter McAllister, Labor Relations Director. So, all right, so we're getting off to a great start. And so we offer you all an opportunity to kind of to share your vision and what you'd like to accomplish during this session.
Well, I haven't worked with you all in this capacity, so I would like to explain the style of work in which I work. So while we're at the table, typically what I do is if I can't answer a question or something specific to like ESE or middle school or something of that sort, I allow the people, I'll defer to whomever that is, because of course I can't speak intimately about their working environment. So I am here to have good collegiate environment where we discuss. What I want to make certain is that everyone knows that this is not a personal thing. This is literally business. This is allowed and afforded to us under the law, and we want to work accordingly. And it's no personal nothing. If we ask for something, it's not a personal jab against anyone to check on anyone, any of those sort of things. It's literally for informational purposes, especially for me having not been here for a while and learning the district in a different way. I was a teacher here 4 years ago, and so it's a different side now. And so I just wanted to explain how I work. I'm very amenable to finding a solution. I never come to the table without a solution. That's just, my father raised me that way. He's a military man. Don't come to me with a problem without a solution. Even if it's not the one that can work, we can at least work through the process and figure out a solution. So that's what we've agreed upon as a team. Those that are more intimately involved with whatever it is that we're talking about will speak to those things. And we just want to make certain that, you know, when it's time to talk about money, it gets very, I mean, that's just any bargaining session, any district, it gets very tense. It gets like that when you talk about money with families. I mean, that's just one of those areas that you don't have enough of it ever in a district, and everybody's trying to claw at it. So, you know, I just want you all to really take that to heart, that none of this is personal. This is a business transaction. This is what we have to do in order to serve our members in the way that we're supposed to. So I just want that to be really clear. we can not have, we can say something at the table and then still have a conversation about whatever we need to the next day to solve it. Leonard and I have done that in several instances. And so I just want to be able to, have that sort of relationship with the people here at this table, with our team, so, that we're working for the betterment of our students at each. All of this comes down to teachers' working conditions or students' learning conditions, and that's really our main focus at the table.
And for LCS, I can share with that Sheree has been working with us already very collegially, and we appreciate that. Hearing our concerns, we've worked amicably together to resolve a couple of issues already, and we continue to do that. We look forward to this being a collegial opportunity to kind of explain our perspective, and we too understand this is nothing personal, but we respectfully request that we all remain respectful, like as you have shared, and that we work to improve the working conditions and the conversations to help our students achieve all that they can be. So it has been our practice, Leonard and I, that if there's an area that you all question or request information on, that we have the time to kind of research it, which is why we've increased and asked certain people to sit at the table with us. And we will also defer to the experts. So if there's a question that's asked, we may allow that person to speak, or we may break and then go in and let them have an opportunity to kind of explain from their perspective. But we will always come back. Our goal is to always resolve issues for the better. So I wanted to say that. So.
I view my role as a facilitator, just to keep everything going, keep progress to be made, and so we're not bargaining in April over something. So I'm a firm believer in get her done, and respectfully, and get her done. And I think last year we ended on a good note, and I think we can keep it rolling. I think since then, there's been a lot of progress made. Your members are our employees, everybody's kids. How do we get limited resources to everyone? We have 3 unions, you have 1, and everybody wants the same. It's 3 things, more and more and more. And so we'll try to do our best dividing what we have. As everyone knows, we're a function of the legislature. We what they give us. And it's a tough environment all over Florida. Not saying anything new, and then we'll have to come to a decision on how to deal with the best and brightest. They changed it. I call it 2.0, and any 2.0 is all there's more. I guess there's more questions than answers right now. So a lot of money there, but we'll have to figure out how to deal with that issue. It's going to be a challenge. Not unsolvable, but a new twist. As you know, they settled the case and they gave us a new law. And every time there's a new law, I call it the Lawyers Relief Act. You need like 15 law firms to figure out what it says, and then 20 more to implement. Right? And then they'll change it next year once you've got it down. Once we agree to what it means, what 3.0. Because no one will be happy. So we'll try to work on that. That's a new big issue. Everywhere I've been so far, our people are struggling. Because there's a definition of it in one of the categories that includes instructional personnel, all of them, which may include parents. It does include parents. So typically parents do not have a highly effective rating. That has to be dealt with. I'm not sure if the FDA has an opinion on that yet, but many are trying to come up with ideas on how to do this. Department of Education has not yet implemented rules on the recruitment definition of who is a content expert. So the math degree, computer science degree, a civics degree, social studies, does that mean you're certified in that area? That's no one knows. So we'll probably get a definition from the Department of Education for next year's recruitment, because we're already recruited, so it's backwards. The law goes in July 1, we've already recruited, so we'll have to deal with that. So that's gonna be a challenge, but doable. I've had several districts ask Department of Education, what does this mean? And almost an out-of-office return, it comes right back. They don't want to use it, because that's what they got too involved in the last one. So that's about it.
Okay,
Thanks
so
to the legislature.
Yeah.
I know that when we, and Sheree and I talk, it seems like almost daily. And so prior to this, we always talked about the setting of the tone. That's been our focus this year. And so what we mutually agreed upon was this was setting the stage and kind of the introductions. And I know that we're entitled to 3 articles. I don't know if you've all thought about the 3 articles you'd like to bring. And then I know that we have a date already solidified for August, the next time, and early August before school starts, because the superintendent asked and you all respectfully requested that we kind of get going sooner than later. We've had some people join. Did you?
I'm Katie Fritz. I'm right now at Fairview Middle School.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we were talking about the 3 articles. Did you all?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of everything in the different articles.
Okay.
But that are the same thing. So I don't know that we have solidified our 3 currently.
Okay.
But I know that our focus is teacher retention, teacher morale, and evaluation.
Say that again, please.
Teacher retention,
Uh-huh.
morale, evaluation, and we want to have some conversations around ACE and live group. There's nothing that really specifies what their job is or how it's supposed to be done or anything of that sort in the contract at all. And so we just need a little more clarity on. So
Okay.
there's no article for that.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know where we would put that.
Okay.
Should we come to something else?
Yeah, and we briefly, if we talked about this last bargaining session, for those of you who were not here, that is a different, because Lively's title has changed. And so I know that Mr. Dietzen had referenced that in other districts, how they deal with that. That's a separate entity. But that is a conversation that we do need to have. And when our former Mayor Wimberly was here, he had briefly started talking about that. So we too want to make sure, but that is not an article, you are correct. So that may require more work off the scenes and then bringing back collegially, working together to look at those. We have not yet solidified our 3 articles either, but I will tell you that morale is on our focus too, our tone at our schools. We've had some new administrators in place and kind of setting the tone for the year. Of course, we are going to look at some language in HR as well as finance. And it's just to kind of clear up some ambiguity, if you will, to kind of make sure that we kind of close some holes, especially for teacher transfer day, and giving people opportunities for working in the district that would help with retention. So we're working on that too. So we knew this session would be more or less kind of sharing our vision. And then the superintendent is working with our finance team to see what we would be able to do. So we have not finished that yet. We don't look she's shaking her head now. But you want to add something to that one?
Yeah, I think we'll have a better understanding of the budget, hopefully the next time of where we're at, and where we ended.
And also, insurance is also one of our.
And I just want to make sure, because I hear, because I had a couple of team members ask us if we could respectfully, I know what we started last year, Sharia, was with the fact that we started during the day, and then we kind of tried to stay, and that ended up kind of being we did 2 days early, 2 days, it just got to be a lot. So what we're respectfully asking is that as we bargain this year, we know we're not gonna be bargaining all the way to, forget it. But if we could share, with the time in the sense that, like right now, teachers are not working, but they're ready to go back to work, I get it. And we don't want principals to have to try to find subs at the beginning of the year. So we're looking at if we do a daytime, we've done it, if we do the evening, next time I think it's an after, because if we could kind of be fair about it and go back and forth and not at all be in the evening. But we'll look at it, because we know it's the beginning of the year and it's very difficult. We want those, especially at the elementary level, those routines in place for our babies. I get it, because that's where I started. So, but if we could look at that and mutually agree that we'll be respectful of each other's time and guard you all's time, but as well as protect ours. Okay.
So you're just asking for us to switch back and forth?
Yes. Now, is there anything that we need to prepare for on ISOD, or do you want to send it to me and I can share it with the team? That may require some research, because I don't want to come back unless you just feel like you can get it to me, then I can today.
Okay.
But I didn't know if you talked about your goals or your focus, but is there something that you need? I know you all put in a public records request that is, is god awful long. It's gonna probably take 19 years to get it finished.
No, actually, everyone's been working diligently, so I want to thank you all individually for working on it.
Okay.
I talked with Julie yesterday, and I should have everything by the end of next week, which is great.
Okay.
So, I mean.
That's a start, not
Yeah.
Okay.
She's been working with me, and she sends it to me as it comes, so, and I just requested things only because.
Look at the file.
Oh, that's what she said.
Yeah.
I'm just-
I have work, I mean, I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying, this is like, you know how you're coming back to school and you're crazy trying to get your classroom set up, that's what I'm at right now.
Okay.
I've got a legal deadline to make
Okay.
in the next week and a half, so the finance stuff, I started working on it, but then I've got my legal deadline, so it could be a couple of weeks before I get to that.
Will it be before our next bargaining session?
Yeah, I will do everything I can to get it before August 8th, but just, I mean, understand, I'm not putting it off, it's just that I like to pay a check every month.
Okay.
Like y'all do, I can't afford to get fired.
Okay.
And I don't look good in orange or stripes, so.
I understand that. The only, well, I could send it to you.
Okay, that's
There's
fine.
some questions that we have about the insurance, just so we can get a baseline as to where to begin to have the conversation. But we do have some questions just about trends and things of that sort,
Okay.
for insurance. And then, I do have this letter that I want to share with you all. It is technically a cease and desist, because there are some things that haven't been happening in the contract. So I just need to be done.
Okay.
And specifically, as student contact time, we have to revisit that. In the contract is 5 hours and 15 minutes, and that includes learning. So I know that that's not realistic for the work that we all do, but we do need to have a conversation, because that was one of the very first things almost every campus I went to where that wasn't being, there was no conversation around it. In addition to the shared decision-making team, some principals are not allowing a vote to even happen as it states in the contract, for them to say yes or no, we want this. And it really, this is a part of morale, the shared decision-making piece. It is a huge part of morale, because teachers are more invested when they feel part of the plan and a part of the process. And currently, that's not happening at every site. There are some sites that are doing it really well, I've seen. I mean, I'm not gonna say there aren't. And there are some that use it as a problem-solving team, and that's not what it is. It's a place for everyone to have a conversation about what the needs are at the school, and around, the SAC committee as well. And according to statute, if a principal is gonna have autonomy, some of those things have to be in place. If that's the way that we're working in this district, because I hear that a lot of the principals have autonomy that comes with the statute, where you have to follow certain rules to have that autonomy, where the community is involved, people are involved, and all that type of thing. So it's really just sitting down having a conversation, to be perfectly honest. That's what the teachers are asking for. And I said that I would have that conversation with everyone so that we could see how we can get to that place.
Well, a couple of things.
Mhm.
To cease and desist from any behaviors that prohibit bargaining unit from implementing any negotiated rights.
Mhm.
Which we need to know which right, for which school, all 42 schools can cease and desist if they're not doing anything wrong.
Almost all the schools on there are not following the scheduling. I've gotten that from at least two of the middle schools so far where they've actually documented their time in and time out, which is far greater than 5 hours and 15 minutes as mandated by the contract. So when I say that within the contract, I'm meaning from cover to cover, we're looking to adhere to everything. So we're just making certain that we're clear about that moving forward, that's all. It's not to,
Well, the law says we have
Okay.
to comply with all the contracts.
Mhm.
So there are paragraphs in a school, it's not, that has to fix it. That's usually called a grievance. The cease and desist is, the district is not paying health insurance for everything. So I'm trying to figure out, we gotta go back and fix something today. Cease and desist is basically saying, stop what you're doing and then follow, and I can't go back to every principal and say, go follow all this. What's
If you
part
give
of
us
it?
specific schools, then I can go back to, I know you just said you had 2 middle schools. So if you have 2 middle schools that are not adhering to class size, class load, Article
Is it
8.
starting and stopping times?
yes, their contact time with kids. So in the contract, it states it's 5 hours and 15 minutes. And
For middle
currently-
school.
For middle school, and there are some elementary schools that aren't adhering to that as well. And I know that that's not realistic. I mean, when you talk about student contact time, it also includes their planning. So if your planning time is being taken for data meetings, and all those things are still a part of their contact time.
Well, that would be a planning time, grievance time.
But it's happening a lot. All I'm saying is, it's more than 5 schools, elementary, that I get this complaint from. So all I'm saying is, I just want to make sure that everybody is on notice about, we
Okay.
plan to, moving forward, we're educating our reps and our members around they have student contact time.
So, and I, just to be clear and fair to both teachers and administration, I think we briefly talked about this last year as in respect to the fact that when principals have posed questions, and Sue, you may be able to help me, and now that we have our principals on here, and you gave the example about data chats and things of that nature coming into play. And I think there were some examples that when Mrs. Crawl reached out to respectfully ask administration at the elementary level, when are you doing this? How are you doing this? Are you asking your teachers, why are you doing it during this time? And what she learned and reported to us was teachers were preferring to do it during the day than to, in some instances, come after school or do it later. And so you could speak to that. But that's why I want to know what schools, it may help me to deal with it.
Well, here's the thing, if there was a shared decision-making team at the schools, then maybe this wouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
What I'm saying to you is, I'm thinking, because they're not a part of the process,
Okay.
and making, and having a decision on when those things occur, that's why we're getting different stories from every school. You get what I'm saying? So I think the shared decision-making team would kind of combat some of this, because there will be conversations around what's happening at the school and what's not. And then the other part is, there was a question, is there any way for you all, and I've already requested this for public record, to give me the schedules of the contact time? That's something that you all should have readily available, right, about what the teachers are doing, their scheduling. I've asked for it, but I haven't gotten it, so I can't tell you specifically this school, because I don't have the documentation.
Okay.
What's been reported from
Jillian.
teachers.
So the master schedule, we do not roll over to the next school year until the end of ESY and Summer Reading Academy.
Okay.
Because Summer Reading Academy has to do with the 18-19 school year and the retention of third grade students.
Okay.
So we can't roll to the next year until we close that out. And because ESY is the service of servicing ESC students, so when we will not roll over to the next year for the next semester schedule
Okay.
until that's completed. So,
But we can get previous
Thursday.
ones, right?
Well,
Okay.
previous ones don't, you asked from last year. So your Thursday is the end of Summer Reading Academy and ESY. So we'll roll probably, when do you do, you're doing you're gonna retain the students Thursday or Friday?
Principals are going in tomorrow afternoon to start making
Okay,
decisions
so-
on promote for their cause. But I think Missy's deadline is the 23rd. It's Monday next week.
Yeah, so we
To
will
submit
roll
to
the
DOE.
following day.
Okay.
And so then once we roll the following day, then we can upload them. So all that, there's a process, but probably by, I would say August 1st.
Okay.
Realistically, we could give you something for the 19-20 school year, which is probably what you're more interested in.
I am, but I don't want schedules to get made and then they're violating the contract. You get what I'm
So-
saying? So that's,
So, do you know,
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So,
I mean, I can just tell you when, this is our process.
okay.
And so we will not roll until August 1st. We cannot report to you until, or the earliest, like August 1st-ish, to give you what the master schedules look like. Beyond that, that's a different conversation. I
Yeah.
can just tell you kind of like the calendar, how the process is.
okay. So then once they do the rollover, I'll work with administration, both Ms. Crawl, Ms. Rochelle. I'll work with Alan Cox, because he's secondary. And the principals that are on our bargaining team to look at that thoughtfully
Okay.
and to see how we can get you that respectfully, that information that you're talking about in an effort to look at what's going on.
I think something that would be helpful for me
Mhm.
is last year when I was doing a particular school or particular administrator, I mean, that was somebody I worked with and we tried to resolve it. So that's always helpful for, I know it would be nice if everybody did what they were supposed to do and we didn't have any outliers, but it's more efficient for me. I mean, I can put a general thing out to everybody, but it works best when I sit with somebody and say, look, this is an issue, how can we work this, we need to resolve that. So I'm always gonna be a fan of, who are we talking about and where is this? Yes, we'll put the general message out, but if you're gonna get a quicker result from me if I know exactly who I
Okay.
need to be addressed.
I need the documentation in order to look at it and see where.
So we can get that to you, August. That's the
Okay.
process piece. We'll get that to you as soon as soon as we roll over, they build the schedule. Now, the thing of masters, right, and so a schedule that's rolled on August 1st may not be what comes into, like, they're still moving sections,
Right,
they're
they're
still
still
breaking
balancing.
right, and then even about, like, they're breaking conflicts, like, you can't have, at the high school level, you can't really have, like, physics and calc even at the same time period, because generally the physics BC kids are the same calc kids, so they have to move sections around, so, like, when we roll over, we're just rolling over the mess. And then, like, the next couple of days is where we're breaking the conflicts and all that kind of stuff. So I think I bring that up to say, what you might get at the first run is not gonna be necessarily.
Exactly what happened.
Right, it's about 75-80% there,
But we should know what a teacher is teaching, right?
Mhm.
And how long and what contact that they're having with kids, if they're planning using their, we should be able to at least.
Yeah, but I think it's probably more of an elementary
For
concern.
elementary and
Okay.
set.
Okay.
We start, we end this time,
Mhm.
that time. Everybody gets half an hour for lunch, especially when it's in their planning times.
So, because I think
high
the
school is a little
secondary, yeah, like a
more
secondary
complicated.
issue is just straight up steps, is straight up periods.
Mhm.
I think probably anybody so if I could, like, I think this is more of an elementary concern probably, because secondary is
And
and middle school.
Mhm.
Okay, so but middle school's by periods.
Right.
So,
And they are having more duty in the morning.
okay, that's
The
outside,
kids
not
are
still.
coming, in elementary, they're coming earlier than they're supposed to, which is contact time. So we're just
That's
trying to
not
figure
still.
out.
Okay, so like,
So-
in my mind, when I'm thinking contact, like, just the periods, so that's something different.
Yeah, she's talking about what you're asking, but she's also talking about supervision of.
Supervision of
duty.
students.
She's talking about kids arriving at school, if it's middle school, they get there at 8:15, and they're out in quad. Who's managing and teachers are required to be there
Right.
per their principal.
Right.
That's more supervisory of non-instructional time, like what's going on with that, how's that being mandated across the district at different
And
schools.
again, it comes back to shared decision making. If that conversation is being had, then teachers will, you know what I mean, you'll have more
Buy-in.
buy-in. It's-
Right.
That's just it at the end of the day. They wanna have a seat at the table so that they're no longer on, that is just where we are. That's all I keep hearing. They just wanna be able to voice, no, this could be done a little different, maybe we can do this here. I don't mind doing this. They'll step up and do it. It's not that, it's just that it's being forced on them. This is what you're gonna do when I have no say in my workday at all. and they'll step up and do it. They'll do anything for these kids, period. That's just, those are the sort of educators that you all have in Leon County. I've seen across the state, but they want to be a part of the process, I believe.
It's still, you could still start out with a cease and desist letter, which is basically saying we're violating the entire contract. And then the union intends to enforce all articles of the contract from this point forward. I thought you would do that always.
Well, I just wanted it to be clear because there were some things that were not enforced when I wasn't here, prior to me getting here. And then there are some things that are. So just to be on, if you want the cease and desist to go away, we can have a conversation about, we plan moving forward to adhere to everything in the article, everything in the contract, everything in statute as it pertains to teachers' working conditions.
Right. And then the school board
wages, and
said
insurance.
we would plan on enforcing all school board rules by the book,
Mhm.
which most teachers would not want, because a lot of schools have deals that they cut. They're not all 42 the same, but it
And
goes
that's-
without saying, we'll enforce our rule, but not perfectly, because some people want deals. But what do we need to cease and desist about school improvement, accountability, and shared making?
There's never been, from some school sites, what's been told to me, there has never been a note or notice sent out to be able to vote for a shared decision-making, and that's in the contract, and the student contact time. So those two things are happening. They are being scheduled over 5 hours and 15 minutes. So that needs to cease and desist. The shared decision-making, teachers are not being offered the opportunity to even vote to have at some sites. It's not even an option that the principal is allowing. So that's why I put it in the cease and desist. So now if I'm incorrect, I'm fine with that. But I just wanted to be clear that this is what we're looking for.
All right, so this is a voluntary process, so you basically want a notice to go out, and if they don't want it, they don't want it.
Right, they vote against, right, and then if they do, then they should be allowed to have it and adhere to the bylaws that they have on campus.
And I know that we started last year, so to be fair, we did start last year, we had a committee, and I know that Dr. Mays, who's no longer in the district, worked with Mr. McLean on starting that process and looking at it thoughtfully, throughout the district. So, we began that process, and I know that Scott and I, ended up at sale the same day, unbeknownst to ourselves, and he did a great presentation on it. And from what I could tell, schools around the district are working together, and quite a few of them are already working some form of shared decision. And what Scott had shared is that, or talked to us about, is that everybody's doing something that may not be under the guise of that literal title. And he said, what we need to do is make sure we can share our information, that teachers feel a part of it. So I received that. We had started that last year, and so we'll go from there.
I think part of it also is understanding what interpretation for example, at one site, administrator said that because 50% of the faculty did not vote, that it couldn't happen, even though there was a 50% of voting participants who voted for the shared decision making, because not enough people went to their mailbox to get the ballot handed in, that it wouldn't occur. That's the principal's interpretation of the contract language, because the president, you don't need 50% of the country to go ahead and vote for you. It's just who shows up to the polls. So when it comes down to it, as far as whether or not the staff votes for shared decision making, it doesn't. That part needs to be interpreted by us, not individually at the school site.
I agree with Sue Kroll that we need to, go by school, because I know at our school, we've had SDMC for years.
So it's
We meet at
51%
minimum twice a
approval
month,
by
plus
the
leadership meeting monthly.
Right, so that's why we do need to know, it would help us, because like you said, every school is doing something. Well, I should say that. Ms. Rochelle, which is why I wanted someone from middle school to talk about that are conscientiously involving staff. So we'll work together.
And I think the other part is when it does occur, notification has to come to us that it's being done at the school site as the contract says. It's supposed to be the LCTA president or relation or people have decided to do this at the school site. So it's just making sure that we follow through so we know where it's happening, where it's not happening,
And how we can
because
support
how
the
we can-
effort.
Because the idea was, a lot of schools that wanted to do it, they didn't have bylaws, because you're supposed to have a way of work, how you go about the process. What's the scope of the work that's supposed to be taking place. As it says in the contract, it includes the school's budget, it includes the scheduling, it includes that type of stuff to be a part of it. But some administrators will say, well, that's a principal decision, it doesn't go this way. And if there's no bylaws, if there's nothing that kind of speaks to that, then
So the other thing I think is very crucial for this conversation, okay, is I can say this, and the team that's sitting with me, I think Mrs. Clemens can speak to this, as well as Ms. Rochelle, because of their level, and Ms. Crawl. I want to make sure that in doing this, that we find a collegiate way to have the conversations, because I think in some instances, it's the tone of the people that are starting to have these conversations, okay? Their approach to the building administrator, how they address the building administrator, and how they're using sometimes, not in all instances, very few, but sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? Is the negative tone of why this needs to be implemented. Does that make sense? So it's from what I've heard, not from a lot of people, is that it's the persons who are being required to do their due diligence in the classroom, or they may be disgruntled for various reasons, are the people, we want to share the decision-making council, we wanted to do this, and it's not done in the theme in which you're sharing it. It's not done to improve communication with administration or amongst teams or with staff. It's done as a result of, I'm angry, so now I want this implemented because I want to hold you accountable. I want to make sure that the tone of it is done, like Sue said. I really feel it's important to hear from my staff. Like Ms. Clemens said, I want them to be a part of it, and like what I hear you all saying. So I want to make sure that the guise in which it's being done is not being led by someone who's not received well. That's all.
And we're working on that.
Okay. Okay.
We've had those
Perfect.
conversations. as well.
Okay.
I know that when I was at Fairview, it worked pretty well. I was on the team for sixth grade. I was one of the people, so I know that it could work well. We just, and we felt better in that school because we had a voice. It wasn't perfect, but at least we knew we were gonna have the conversation
Right.
around scheduling for testing, or scheduling for half day, or whatever that is.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, you sat down and you had the conversation around it. Especially with the people that are closest to the learners, we need to hear from, them. And I receive what you're saying. I told you have my word. We've been talking about having those people trained properly and finding people that are respected in the school.
Right.
And so we want to make certain that the messenger is a good messenger. For certain.
I know in our school, the term I constantly use is you're the experts, because they're in the classroom, and it is important. I agree.
I appreciate that. And you can tell by the feeling at the different schools that you go to. You can tell, honestly, when you walk in the building and you talk to staff, you can tell whether they can have that conversation with their principal and have those. It's just a different feeling. For lack of a better term, you can feel the professionalism, the happy. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just it's a totally different feeling from one middle school to the next. I felt it in one day, literally driving from one middle school going to another one that had issues. So that's really our focus. It's not to be harsh or any way. We just want it to be clear that this is something that everyone is asking for, and mainly teachers are asking for it so that they can have their voice in the room. That's it.
Okay.
And to your point where you were saying about the person who sometimes brings it, I think it's also, from a leadership standpoint, the person needs to be comfortable being able to hear things that may not, whatever, have that disagreement with them. And as we've kind of said, not take it personally. It's someone's perspective of this is what's happening in my classroom. And so it requires a leader who is comfortable. And it's not about, I always have to be right, or it has to be my way. And that comes from the people that also work with them. So kind of that certain level of humility of being able to, we're here for effect size and efficacy for student achievement. And if we can kind of talk about the things and maybe budget at the school site's not going, you know, maybe this isn't the best use of it. How can we have a conversation about not using for athletics or something, or whatever it is we're doing? Can we find a better program? Can we do something? And that's most of what the conversation is about, I think.
And I received that, Scott, because I know that sometimes educators, right, we're very territorial. From principals to teachers, I mean, we all write our names on everything and permanent marker, they're all lined up, you know, we have our way of work. And it's hard for teachers to move their cheese, and I can say that because I am one, right? So I label everything, the manuscript has to be right, I mean, like, it's all that. But at the same time, there are certain things that principals, decisions they make, and it's not gonna be a decision that teachers can help make. Right, they're the manager, and there's always 6 sides to a story, and they're sitting here and they're trying to manage the 45 different personalities, non-instructional and instructional. So although I hear, not even although, I hear what you're saying about being able to receive, and I think that works both ways. So I want to help improve that, because you can tell a principal or you can make a recommendation, but if your approach is, you're doing this wrong, we don't like it, as opposed to, hey, do you have a few minutes after school, I'd like to talk with you about, I think it would be received better. So as we work on that on our end, I'm gonna work at the Principal Summit to talk about how, you know, and how we model that too, right? So it's hard sometimes to hear that there might be another way, or that if there's a different way to talk to people or to receive information and not be needy. Because they ask you a question doesn't mean they're trying to take your job.
Right.
Or to say that you're ineffective in your job, but just a different way of thinking, like we look at all the different learners. So we're really working with through leadership to look at, being a principal is very difficult. It looks easy, and a lot of people want the job.
Till they get it.
Right, and then they go, is this what I signed up for? And so it's difficult, but I yield to.
And sometimes people don't see, some of my teachers, they're not able to see the whole for various reasons. Sometimes it's confidential reasons. And I'm making decisions, and it's not because I don't want anyone included, but sometimes I'm making decisions based on things that I can't just make public. And I don't mind saying that part, but still you have to be willing to accept that from me and not think that I'm trying to hide anything. It's just, for whatever reason, I can't share that with you, but I need to make this decision. So,
I was just gonna say, I think what would be helpful, because this keeps coming up, I mean, even me right now, as having had experience as a sitting principal, what is it that is the purview of the principal? Is it the budget? Is it instructional materials? You know, there are principals that would like to not have to use what needs to be used. So I think what might be helpful for us in the interim between now and the next meeting is there a list of responsibilities that we can come up with that the principal, these are decisions that the principal is responsible for, either statutorily or by their responsibility as principal. And this is the input that teachers can give. I know we like to say everybody should give input on everything, but as she said, that, you know, sometimes it doesn't. So right now, it's like everybody should, so maybe what would be clearer for both of us is what is it that a principal has to take responsibility for? Because as a principal, you say, well, I don't know, the teachers wanted you to do it. Well, no, you're held responsible for what? For the same thing for teachers. What is it that we can or should be able to give input on? And of course, the atmosphere in the tone is primary to any decision.
And I just wrote that, Sue, down here, you know, that we need to define what's required to be discussed at SAMC, because we've always looked at it, what touches everybody. For example, schedules. You know, that's something that has to come. If we get an A, how the A+ money is distributed. Those are all things that SDMC regularly deals with.
When I was principal of DLX, if it affected everybody on that campus, every student, every teacher, every custodian, everybody on that campus, then that was what was discussed at that cycle. Okay? That's what was discussed. Like if we were talking about math curriculum, we discussed math curriculum. It was No.
No.
Okay. We didn't necessarily discuss the discipline.
That's PBIS.
You know.
With it, discipline sometimes goes for cost.
But see, that at our school,
Well,
PBIS
but we
has
would talk
that.
about that. You know,
Now, if we have a cell phone policy, which last year we just changed, that's school-wide, that affects, that's
but see, but we
SCMC.
also had a, application. Okay, where somebody would, they would put their application in, and they would submit something to site. This is my application process, they would submit their application to site, and then we would look at that, and we would decide if it was an actual issue for site, or if it was, or if it would go to administration. If it was a site issue, or if it was an administration.
You decide.
At our school, the
Actually,
facilitator
the facilitator and the
principal.
principal.
Yeah.
The site chair and the principal would decide.
So is it a monthly meeting or a meeting as needed?
Ours is scheduled, ours is every first and third Wednesday. I mean, and we've met, to be honest with you, monthly if we needed to. And then leadership meets a minimum of once a month, and for those are the instructional implications in the curriculum.
But I agree with Sue. This has come up quite a bit. And it may be that we need some training on, you know, what shared decision-making has been. Because it's been a long time since we've got training on shared decision-making with teachers. And I know you've asked for it before. Okay? But we've got lots of new
I can't hear you,
administrators.
Dr.
We have new administrators as well,
Okay.
so this will be an optimal time for everybody to get on the same.
If I can piggyback on that, one of the things that Dr. Mays also said reflected well throughout this last year is when you have teachers involved in the shared decision making, this is a way that they're learning how the process works so that they become administrators. That they know what it looks like, they have a taste of it, flavor of it. So I think it would be a valuable tool for your recruitment effective in the future.
And at our school, it's not just teachers that are on it, we also have non-instructional. We have every area represented. And then they go back and get the votes from their group.
Right, absolutely. The other part that was brought to my attention is domain 4. It talks a lot about being involved with the school and all that kind of stuff. So this could probably be a part of, you know, because I know last year there were different ways that different principals were evaluating domain 4. You had to show if they did a book review or they did this, or, you know, you being a part of the shared decision making and being a part of that process could show that they're involved.
And that's part of ours, it is noted in it.
Right.
Okay, well, we appreciate this dialogue, this conversation, and I thank both teams for coming together. You all will notify your team of the next bargaining time, and we'll send out invites for our team for bargaining. And I know that you said you would send me some information, so if I need to get some, okay. And then I do have these lovely ladies that will help me at the principals meeting kind of share thoughts going forward.
Before you all depart, I just, for the principals, I have some information of some of the things that we offer for training.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I don't have all of the.
I'll send it over to you. Yeah, I'll give it to Shona.
From AFC. Those are just some of the things that we offer as far as professional development, free.
For free. Did you say free?
You know what I mean? That we can offer.
And it's Sue.
Yeah, I already have it. I'll
Yeah, I
print
sent
it
it
off.
to her, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, we're willing to do whatever trainings we need to be a part of. I don't know what that looks like, if you all have done it in the past, Dr. Gail, with shared decision making, I'm not sure. But whatever you all are willing to do so that we can just put it out there that it's not a problem solving thing, it's not a I got you, it's just a conversation the teachers want to be able to have. And I think that Ms. Rochelle is doing it well, I hear it all the time. You can just tell. Even when I sit down and have conversations where these were made because at our meeting, you know, having worked with her last year,
Yes.
different things.
Yes.
She was able to say, our team made this decision because, you know, and so that's really helpful even for us when we're advocating on the other end. Well, this is what's happening at your school. How are you involved in that process? And how can, you know, have you looked into how they can support you? Because I know that this is happening, you know what I mean? So that kind of helps us hold our people accountable as well. For ways to use the resources on campus.
before, I think before we have this training room,
Okay,
we need to be on the same page
absolutely,
of what this training is.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And what the purpose of
Okay.
SDMC and define it.
And
I agree.
Okay, because I don't want to be training on something that y'all, and then the training be done, y'all, that's not what we want to do.
Absolutely.
And the biggest thing is that all schools have the same document and understand what it is.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's just so important.
Yes, I agree. I'm totally for it. It'll make life way easier, right, Dina?
Yes. I have tons of time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I respectfully thank you all for coming today, and I look forward to working with you all bargaining for this school year.